Welcome to Everything House Music and More. And today's special guest, we have the one and only Byron Stingily. What's up, B?
What's up, Mo? How you doing, man?
I'm great, brother, man.
Harvey World, huh?
That's right, brother.
Harvey,
you know, we
right?
represent that, man,
Yeah, okay.
to the fullest.
All right.
So you ready to get into this?
I'm ready to get into it.
Let's do it, brother. So, B, you were connected to the house culture way before the house genre. If so, how was you introduced to that culture?
I was a club kid. I was at every party. I mean, back in the day, I used to meet Jesse and Wayne them down.
That's Jesse Saunders and Wayne Williams, right?
I used to meet them at the parties that they were DJing at. And back then, I would try to get there like they had to carry records in. I would get there early to try to help them carry their records in so I get in the parties free and stuff like that. So I go back with them guys.
So how were you at this time?
I was about 14, 15 when I first started hanging around them guys. And like Kurt Townsend, I used to call him Big Bruh back in the day.
Okay.
That was my guy. And even though I was from the West Side, I used to make it out to all they different parties.
Okay. So did you ever go to the warehouse and the power plant or Music Box?
I went to the warehouse at the toward the end.
Okay.
Because I wasn't really old enough, but like towards the end before it closed, I used to go to the warehouse with hear Frankie spin. Everybody used to talk about Frankie Knuckles, and I had to hear for myself.
Oh, nice. So what was your musical background before house music?
Before house music, I played in bands. I played in a band called The Black Pearl, and it was like sort of like a new wave band, and we played all over Chicago. We played at places like the Cubby Bear,
right?
All the little like rock and roll clubs and things like that. We would play, and we had like a 7-8 piece band. And one of the people we used to be in Battle of the Bands. I used to battle Keith Nunley's band back in the day.
Get out of
we
here.
used to always battle his band.
Oh, wow!
It would come down between us and them. What's the guy, Davion? From the group Smoke City. We used to play like with a lot of different bands. The guy Mickey Free and all that, who they did the sketch on. So I played in bands. I played percussions and I played keyboards. It's new wave. You just have to have some real
get out of here.
Little synth stabs and stuff like that sound.
So it came early to you then already.
Yeah, in high school. I was playing in bands all over.
What high school did you go to?
I went to a school called Holy Trinity.
Catholic school.
Went to a public school at first, Leif Erikson, and then it was like the Fresh Prince got in a real bad fight, and some people tried to shoot up our block.
Get out of here.
And after that, my mom sent me to Catholic school.
Oh, nice. All right, V, that's good. So let me ask you this question. Did you release any other records before Devotion?
I had records called Just a Little Bit, Can't Stay Away, Fix It Man.
Now, Fix It Man went under Ragtime, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Can't Stay Away was under Ragtime as well.
So who did the vocals on that one?
T.C. Roper. He was one of the guys in the group On the House with Marshall Jefferson. He was the guy would move your body.
Yeah.
And so Roper.
So how'd you come up with the group Ragtime?
It was just a name. I was trying to come up with a name. I was thinking of like New Orleans jazz and things like that, and it was just something, I don't know. It wasn't a very good name.
No, because some big. So you didn't do vocals on it. You just the writer on that.
I wrote Fix It Man. I did. I originally did the vocals myself, and I didn't like how my voice sounded on that particular record.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't like my voice on it. So like, man, get Thomas to do it. He'll kill that.
Right.
And I put Thomas on it.
So Marshall produced it.
Now Marshall had nothing to do with it, but he heard it and told me to put Roper.
Oh, nice. So who produced that? The Fix It Man.
I did.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
A lot of people don't know. Like people a lot of times think that I just sing, but a lot of production on 10 City and various groups. Work with Mesa Leak. Work with a lot of people. I'm going to say this is probably going to stir up a controversy. Some of the first Little Lewis records, I was in the studio with him. He was my neighbor.
Oh, wow.
And when he was doing Frequency Out of Control, what's the other one? The first EP he did, he came to my house, asked me, could he use my keyboards and drum machine? I said, sure. And then he came back like about an hour later and was like, hey, what you doing today? I was like, I'm just here at the house. I'm chilling today.
Right.
And he's like, well, you want to come to the studio? Next thing I know, Next thing I know, I'm in there programming 707, which wasn't hard to do.
Right.
And he was just like, "Oh, no snares. I just want claps." And so frequency out of control and that record, music takes you away.
Music
That's
takes
my
you away,
voice on
right.
there.
Oh, get out of
I worked on those with him.
Man, see, I'm just learning that now.
He told me he was gonna he was like, "Bruh, I'm gonna give you co-producing credit." I was like, "Cool." Record came out, name was nowhere on the records.
Wow.
But it's whatever.
See, man, I mean,
so I gave you a little. You be trying to pull up
that's
stuff
a little
on
history,
folks, but yeah, I was around a lot of people when they were doing their records, giving input. I didn't really give a lot of input, but the whole time when Jesse Saunders was in the studio working on a lot of stuff, him and Dwayne Buford, I used to be right there in the studio.
Oh, nice.
With those guys. Sometimes I would ask. Jesse would have a song, and I would, "Hey Jesse, it would be better probably if you would do this." And he would tell me like, "Hey man, you can sit there, but you can't be saying that when we producing the records." I like, all right.
So he shot you down on that one.
Yeah,
Wow.
he shot me down, but I respect that. He had his own vision for his things, but I used to be like, "Man, if they would just do this, it would make that record so much better. If it had a hook like this, the backgrounds was doing this," and I'd be, "Hey." Wow. He's like, "Come on, B, you can't talk while we producing that." But it was cool. I got a chance to learn a lot from being around them guys.
Okay, so Ray Barney seemed to be a go for you guys coming up on the west side of Chicago. How did Ray play a role for you?
Well, I worked at Ray's record store.
Okay.
As a kid, he decided he was going to do a dance music label, which Bright Star Dance Mania, which put out, like I said, they put out the first Lil Louis records. They put out Marshall Jefferson's Pleasure Control, Hardcore Tracks by Dwayne Buford. And I wound up running Ray's label and in the distribution part of the label. I ran that for him.
So what year was this now?
This had to been like about 86.
Wow.
When I started working for Ray. I worked for Ray 86 and 87, and I was still trying to work for him up till like going out on the weekends, doing the first shows for 10 City. And then in 1988, Ray came to me. He's like, "Man, I'm going to have to fire you." I was like, "How you going to fire me, man? I help you start your label and get it running and get it cracking." But I help really, a lot of people don't know, I helped a lot of the early house records get distributed through Ray and just all across the board.
Oh, wow. So a lot of the house pioneers from Chicago West Side often get overlooked. Tell us about some of those artists and producers. You know, I know yourself included. So who else from the West Side did you look up to?
Oh, man, it's so many. One of the first DJs I looked up to was Terrible Ted. I love Terrible Ted. I used to go to every party Terrible Ted would DJ. And then one of the first times I met Farley, Farley was opening DJ for Terrible Ted. And I said, "Wow, that young boy, he was kind of nice, Ted." And then I went and got Farley to come spin at our high school dance when I was a freshman in high school. And Farley came and spent at the dance. And then next thing I know, Farley was like, he became Farley, you know.
Wow. Okay, so how did you meet Marshall Jefferson?
I met Marshall Jefferson. I was actually in the studio. I was doing a song called Funny Love. I had did a demo on a 4-track, took it to Larry Sherman. He liked the song, and he was like, "You need to go in get you in a real studio." So we went to Universal Studios, which back then was a lot of money. It was $100 an hour to be in the studio. And it was funny. The guys I told you I was in the group, and the guys in the group had no interest in house music. They didn't respect it. But then the minute they found out I was going in to do a song for a record label, not everybody wanted to be involved.
Wow.
And once again, we get down to the studio, and I get there, and then the guys in the group, all of a sudden, they want to add all these fancy keyboard parts to the record. And I was like, "It's not that kind of record. It's supposed to be raw. It's a house record." And like the bass player coming, and then Larry told me to be quiet. He told me,
Larry Sherman
told me, "Let the guys do what they do. You're just a singer."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so the record was kind of coming out, and it was coming out horrible. It was like, it was too much. Everybody was like, on records, you gotta have, everybody was overplaying. So the bass player, he wanted to show everybody he could play. He doing all this plucking, and I'm like, oh my God. The keyboard player and the guitar player, you know, I'm like, oh my goodness.
So who was supposed to be the producer for that?
It was supposed to have been, it was originally supposed to have been me, but Larry started listening to like some of the other guys that I was in the group with. Like he's like, they kind of had, I was always very humble and quiet, and they were outspoken, and he thought they had the swag or whatever. So he was like, they the ones but they had nothing to do with the demo. And so Marshall walked in the studio, and he walks over to me and he goes, "Hey B, who wrote them lyrics, man, and the melody?" I said, "Well, I wrote the lyrics and the melody." He said, "That's dope, but you know that music sucks, man. That sucks." And he was like, "But you wrote the lyrics and melody." I was like, yeah. And he was like, "Hey, man," he goes, "I need you to come and start writing my lyrics and melodies for me." And I was like, oh, wow. And I already had heard some of the stuff he did, like, this before Move Your Body, like he had the Virgo tracks. And I heard that and I was like, oh man, whoever did these Virgo tracks, they got a vibe to them. So I was like, wow. And then he walked in, and my buddy, Sleazy D, was like his little brother. And so Sleazy was like, yeah, Byron the man, Marshall, this, and this. So Sleazy D, kind of put us together.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so we started.
And Sleazy D's from the West Side.
Nah, Sleazy D from the South Side. But Sleazy D would be all over. Sleazy D used to be at all the parties. Like that's why I said I was a club kid. So Sleazy knew me from all the parties. He was like, you know, people don't know this now. You the guy dance kind of all crazy or whatever, you know. And
you was twirling back then?
I'm
just saying it was the culture, man.
I mean, I used to do splits and all that kind of stuff. I got a funny story that I'm not gonna tell today.
You can tell that, man. I remember that too, man.
Anyhow,
I got video of you doing splits too, man. So, so take me to how did 10 City begin?
So Marshall had a show. Him and the group On the House, they had a show in New York. They had actually several shows. They had a show at Essex Community College, Essex County College, where they were opening for the group. System. My guy Mick Murphy, he's the man. They were opening for System. And then they had some other shows, and then they had a show at Paradise Garage. And so here's what people don't know. A lot of people, I had those records out just a little bit and Can't Stay Away, but people weren't really playing those here in Chicago because they weren't really playing a whole lot of vocals. One of the few exceptions might have been the J.M. Silk, a couple maybe Kevin Irvin record here and there, but You Used to Hold Me. But like they weren't really playing my songs here. But when I got out there to New York, I found out that they were playing my records. Like Larry Levan was beating Can't Stay Away and just a little bit like ridiculously at the Paradise Garage. And they had been looking for me for like 4 or 5 months to book me.
Oh, wow.
But nobody knew it. So Larry Sherman had put the shows together.
Oh, Lord.
That was my guy, though. I ain't gonna, a lot of people, but Larry always paid me. Well,
that's good.
So I go out there, and Larry's like, "Oh, it'll be good exposure for you." Come to find out, he was like, "It'll be some good exposure." Like I was, but come to find out, my records were big out there. But I went out as an opening act for Marshall.
Oh, okay.
And On the House.
Now, what did you come out as Byron Stingily or?
Yeah, came out as Byron Stingily.
Okay.
And I did those 2 records, and Byron Burke had went with me. Okay. And he came out and he danced during the middle of the show. And but at the I told Marshall Saturday, if we supposed to went back Sunday, I said, "Hey Marshall, let's stay out here for another 3-4 days, man." I said, we'll go home with a major deal. And Marshall was like, he was like, ain't no major company gonna sign us. I said, Marshall, we're gonna go home with a major deal.
Okay.
And so we went around to all the different record labels.
Right.
We didn't even have demos. We didn't even have nothing finished.
Wow.
And every label was excited to meet us. They were like, you're the guys from the Chicago and Move Your Body. It came out and it was
massive.
They were playing it on regular radio out in New York.
Wow.
And I was like, Marshall, you don't know the power that you have right now.
Right.
And so we went to Atlantic Records, met with Merle and Bob.
Okay.
And Merle was like, come on, we hung out with him like that whole week. We went to every club out there in New York. We were just going eating. And then we got ready to leave. Merlin told me, he said, hey man, you my brother. Like from day one, he was like, you my brother. Right. He said, the next record you do is coming out on Atlantic Records. And I said, whatever. You know how people talk whatever. Right. And so I was home. I was staying in my grandma's basement, and she used to kick on the floor when the phone would ring. Right. People don't know about that.
I know, right?
So she's stomping on the floor, and she like, baby, Atlantic Records on the phone. And
wow.
I come up, and it's Merlin on the phone, and he goes, hey, man, where my record at?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, he's serious.
Right.
And so I went to Ray Barney, who I work for. I said, Ray, Atlantic Records called me. And they said the next record I do that they going to sign me. And Ray said, how much money you need? I said, well, I'm going to use live strings, this, and this. I said, give me about $3,000. Uh-huh. Ray gave me $3,000.
Wow.
And I went in the studio and did Devotion.
That's the first time I did Devotion. And that's what I was going to next. And I was just going to say that Devotion was one of the first songs to have notably more live instrumentation than any other Chicago house record.
We want to split the difference between being, a traditional house record at that time. Right. You know, like you had Chippy, Time to Jack. It's house. Right. It's house. You know, all that.
Right.
And all, you know, like, Jack. And so house music was a little more tracky.
Right.
And so with me being, quote unquote, a songwriter and singer, I was like, we're going to like kind of combine elements of disco and house. And that was a conscious effort, a conscious decision to do that.
Yeah.
And
just put a collaboration and everything. So were you nervous about putting live instrumentation on the house track at that time?
Not at all.
Okay.
I told Marshall at the time, I said, we're doing a record. And I don't never want to come off like, I said, we're doing a record that 25, 30 years from now, they can still play in the club, just like how we had certain disco records that were classics. I said, we're going for a classic sound.
Right.
And that's what we were going for. And so I wasn't nervous at all.
Yeah. So you was the strong songwriter and a great vocalist at the time. Why did you decide to do a group instead of just going solo at that time?
Because honestly, I didn't really at that time really see myself as for whatever reason, I didn't see myself as an artist. You know, at that time you had artists like Prince,
right?
You know, who wore I got on a Paisley shirt right now, but you know, Prince wearing the Paisley shirts. You know, Michael Jackson and Madonna, and I'm like 6'3". I used to work out back then, so a former
working out now, man.
Yeah, former athlete and things like that. So I was a big guy singing in a falsetto, and I wasn't really all the way comfortable. And I actually thought that the concept of a group, would be a lot more interesting.
Right.
You know, I came from an era where I played in in groups, and then you had like Bootsy's Rubber Band, George Clinton, and you know, Cameo, Confunction, and you know, Ohio Players, and I came from an era of groups, and I just thought the whole concept of group was, you know, most of the lead singers other than Prince, most of them had been part of a successful group and then branched out, and so
when you first went in there and got the money from Ray Barney and you went into the studio, who was there at the beginning? It was just you yourself?
At the beginning, it was me and Marshall.
Okay,
it was always me and Marshall.
Okay,
you know, and that was the whole thing. Like Marshall had "I Move Your Body," Ride the Rhythm, Pleasure Control. He had did the jungle ones.
Yeah.
Marshall was killing it, and so he didn't really know his star power and his value. And I was like,
right,
dude, you're a big fish in as they say, in a small pond. But man, I was like, it's a whole world out here outside of Chicago. You got New York, you got England,
right.
Europe, and I was like, he didn't see the big picture. And not to sound, but I've always tried to be a big picture sort of person and look at the bigger picture. It's easier for me to do it when it's not me involved.
Oh, okay, I see it. So when you first went in there, you're Marshall. What made you decide to bring in Byron Burke and Herb?
Well, Byron Burke was like, he was quote unquote like my little brother.
Okay.
He was my brother,
Okay.
Herb Lawson was a very talented musician. Herb can play guitar, play a little bass. Herb can play keyboards. Herb's a very talented musician. Herb can also sing. A lot of backgrounds on 10 City was me and Herb doing backgrounds. So Herb can sing backgrounds as well.
Okay. So during that time when it was just you and Marshall, was 10 City have any other producers besides Marshall and yourself?
No,
Okay.
but the only producer who came in to quote unquote produce, Steve Hurley, did remixes.
Right Back to You, right?
He did Right Back to You, which was his first remix, and I don't want to take credit, but like his first #1 remix, I was up at Atlantic with Ken Commissar, and they were talking about remixes for Roberta Flack, and I said, man, nobody colder than Steve Hurley. At that time, it's like Steve Hurley.
Right.
And so...
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he just talked about that too. He's coming up next.
But he was like, oh, my manager got me. Like,
yep, he did. He said Frank Rodrigo.
Frank probably, but I put the bug in their ear. Let me say that.
See, there you go. That's what I'm saying. People
have different perspectives, of things. So
absolutely. So that's good, man. So how involved was Merlin A&R in the first album?
Well, it wasn't really any A&R in the first album. Merlin signed us, but Merlin let us do our thing. And what I mean by that is that at that time, nobody really knew anything about house music, so couldn't nobody really tell us.
Right.
So basically, they were like, "Hey, we did Devotion, then we did Right Back to You.
Right.
One Kiss Will Make It Better.
Right.
And then That's the Way Love Is was like about the fourth thing we did. And then they were like, at that point, they basically gave us our own money because Right Back to You was one of the #1 exported records in the whole WEA system.
Nice.
And Devotion, I think Devotion sold maybe initially sold 100,000 copies.
Right.
Right Back to You about 80-some thousand.
Okay.
And so they basically gave us our own money and was like, here, go, because we kept saying we don't want to keep doing singles, we want to do an album. And they were like, well, you're a club act. It's like, no, but we were selling more records than a lot of even they major artists at that time.
Was it hard to push you guys at a major label at that time as a house group?
It was hard because record labels had what they call different departments.
Right.
And so like at Atlantic, they had a pop department, they had a rock department, they had a R&B department,
right,
and they had a dance club department. So it was like Merlin signed us. He was kind of on what they call in the R&B department. And so you had like people at radio, like where they a club act. Right. And then so the R&B department wasn't really embracing us.
Yeah.
The dance department, a little bit, we developed a real good relationship with the dance department, but initially they had people like Debbie Gibson and things like that going through the dance department, and like you had dance groups like Company B and
it was totally different
and Sensation, and they were very different. So we were very different, and so it was like nobody like. Didn't know what to do with us, so to speak, on some levels. Yeah. But I'm thankful that Merlin did sign us. But we had one thing going for us. Merlin and Timmy Regisford were on the radio at WBLS in New York. Right. And they used to beat our records like constantly on WBLS. Then you had Tony Humphreys out there, who was, like I said, it was for a long time, we were in New York every weekend, and then
in Chicago,
and then Chicago kind of came on a little later, you know.
So did you ever feel trapped being signed to a major?
The one point in time, yes, in some points in time I did, and you know, we had just felt like the music wasn't understood. And actually, when I left the group 10 City, I still had the option to go to a major label. Then I had major labels offer me deals.
Right.
When I left the group 10 City.
Yeah, let's pause before you get there about leaving the 10. So let's go to how was touring like during that time with 10 City during the late 80s?
I mean, it was fun, but we would do clubs and people would be lined up outside of clubs to get in to see us. You know, we would do some clubs. I mean, hold 3,000-4,000 people. I mean, we would play London, and I remember like going to Manchester to Hacienda.
Yeah,
and it was just as many people outside that couldn't get in to see us that were actually inside the club.
Wow.
And it was just a real good feeling to see our music go worldwide and to see it be appreciated like that. Wow. And, I remember doing a show here at Navy Pier, and it was like 4,000 people there at the Navy Pier Ballroom and different things. And we did Columbus Park here in Chicago for WGCI had a party, and it was people as far as you could see in Columbus Park. So,
So what has been the biggest 10 City hit to date?
Without question, the biggest hit was That's the Way Love Is. Here in Chicago, a lot of people think Devotion was the big record, but That's the Way Love Is sold millions and millions of copies. Like, it was a number 8 pop record in England. It was like a top 15 pop record in Germany. It was a top pop record all over the world, and sold millions. You know, Devotion was the big underground record, but
that's crazy that some people really think like Devotion was like your biggest one.
No, That's the Way Love. I made anyhow. I did very well off That's the Way Love Is.
You gonna say you made what now?
I made a nice living off That's the Way Love Is.
All right, so
you still make decent money off of that.
That's
song.
good. See, that people don't understand. So that brings us to this. You always had a second career as a writer with an active publishing deal. Can you talk about any co-writing or songs placements outside of 10 City and your own singles?
I mean, it's been so many. Like I was just looking at a statement the other day, and I wrote a song on a diva called "Don't Let It Show on Your Face," and I didn't even know this because they usually have to get my permission to use it. But it was used in the, I guess it was used in the Dahmer movie.
Oh, wow.
And so.
Oh, in the club scene.
In the club scene.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this song, I see like whatever, $1.50.
Right.
Why am I seeing this much on my statement?
And how much was it this time?
I ain't gonna say, but it was
get the people out there know they know about writing. I'm just saying.
It was a nice amount. I mean, it was enough where we can go eat after this.
Oh, okay,
it was more than that $1.50. So I was like, wow, and so I wrote for people like Adiva, Alternate. I've written for people like Mazalik.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy Cy Paul had a number 12 record in England with a Different Strokes, a song I wrote.
Yeah.
Nomads, I Want to Give You Devotion went number 2 pop. So
see, people didn't know that, man.
Yeah, so I've had quite a few records that and a couple more gonna come to me, but number 2 pop record on Nomads, Cy Paul, number 12, Kim English Nightlife was a top 30 pop record in England. A couple songs on her. Duke Dumont just had a pop record on a song I wrote called "The Giver," which I think is probably about 10 million YouTube views on that. And
that's great, man. See,
so it's a lot of different songs.
Look at that many sides of Mr. Stingily over there. So Mike, I mean not Mike, but I'm sorry, Byron. I'm sorry.
Hey, I get that, man. People confuse me and Mike Dunn all the time. They think
but that was my next question. So after the 10 City went on hiatus, you've been producing and had a business relationship with Mike Dunn. And y'all had a record label called Deep Soul at the time, right?
Through Nervous.
Right, through Nervous. Can you talk about any standout projects from that time?
We did Shayna, which was a UK artist. We had success with that. We did we did a lot of different remixes. A lot of different remixes together while we were there. He worked on my Purist album.
Right.
Well, we just that's my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Me and Mike, his birthday is March 17th. Yep. Mine is March 18th.
And mine is the 21st.
Yep. Yours is 21st. And me and Mike were born in the same hospital.
I'll get out.
We were in the hospital at the same time, like when we were born a day apart at the same hospital here in Chicago.
Didn't know y'all was gonna cross paths.
So yeah,
like
me and him was collaborating like when we was in the little incubators or whatever right there, like, you know.
Right.
And so yeah, that's my guy.
Okay, so shortly after that, you started your solo career with Nervous Records. Mm-hmm. Why Nervous?
Well, because Nervous at that time seemed like they understood dance music, and so I didn't have to worry about would I get lost in the pop department, this department, know who gonna promote it.
Yeah.
I knew exactly who I was dealing with, and I didn't have to talk to no A&R person. I'm talking directly to the owner of the label, and they had a history. You know, his father owned Sam Records, which was a big disco label, and he had a history. He had a good knowledge of dance music and how to promote and sell dance records and how to treat artists. And I got a better deal with Mike. Like I shared in all the like licensing, like the record Get Up Everybody. He sold that record to did a license back. It was different now. They actually had, believe this, boys and girls, they had that's album right here.
Right.
So they actually had physical records back then.
Yeah.
And so he sold the song to a label in Japan.
Okay.
A label in Australia, Austria, Israel, Benelux, the UK, Germany. We were on Happy Music in France. We had another deal with another label in Canada. We had, and so in my deal, any licensing deal, I got a portion of that.
Nice.
So anytime he did a licensing deal, he cut me a check. And so even though he was an independent label, for me, it was much more lucrative than being on a major label, getting a few points that you're never going to see because they like, we paid for. So Mike was very fair with me, and so for me it was a lot better deal.
So did you sell more records as a solo artist or with the group 10 City?
Believe it or not, outside of That's the Way Love Is, I sold far more records. I had a number. I think Get Up Everybody went number 14 on the pop charts.
Right. It
would have been top 5. Somebody bootlegged it.
Oh, wow.
I know who the somebody was. Somebody bootlegged it.
Who was it?
It was Errol, Moose T's partner. He bootlegged the record.
Wow.
A week or 2 weeks. And that was the difference between the record being top 5 and number 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
Oh, man.
And that cost us a lot of money. But Get Up went number 14 on the pop charts.
Right.
Mighty Real went number 13 on the pop charts.
Right.
Every song off of that album that came out as a single was top 40 pop all over Europe.
Oh my goodness.
And so like think we had like 4 or 5 top 40 pop records off of there. We had 3 or 4 number 1 Billboard dance singles on there.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people, I actually had more success
as a solo artist,
and I didn't have to split it with nobody.
That's the best thing right there.
Yeah.
So in terms of house vocalists, I believe that you are the only one from the beginning relevant through all the years. Can you talk about the approach to your longevity?
I don't really have an approach to longevity.
Right.
I just enjoy, like, people don't notice I lost my voice.
Right.
Around about the year 2000.
Right.
And I'm just thankful to have my voice back. But I tell you, when I had the most success is when I have fun. Right. It's like when I'm not thinking about, oh, I got to have a hit record because I got to, make this or make that. And I just go in the studio and have fun.
Yeah.
And I love what I do. it always works out, and I'm just enjoying it. And I'm so thankful, man, to just still, started putting out actual records around 1985.
Yeah, because I tried to do my research to see was there any other house artist that's been doing it since the mid 80s to now, and I couldn't find one that started and just been relevant throughout the years, throughout the decades, as to say.
I mean, I love house music. Like I said, I was a club kid, and the one thing that makes me laugh is sometimes you see these singers that have a successful house record, and then I hear them say something stupid like, "Well, I'm a real singer." Like,
right.
Whoa, a real singer? What that means? So you trying to tell me Lolita Holloway not a real singer who sung disco?
Yeah.
You trying to tell me Martha Wash, one of the greatest singers ever, is not a real singer because we sing dance music?
Right.
And so I just think that's and people don't know most of the great singers got their start in dance music. Luther Vandross with the group Change.
Yep. Sure did.
Glow of Love.
Yep.
So
let me ask you
Freddie
this.
Jackson.
Let me ask
Mystic
you
Maryland.
This recently happened, and I want to get your opinion on it. So the Grammys was this year. And the big dance electronic album of the year was Beyonce, the Renaissance album.
Yeah.
And she said something to that where she wanted to thank the queer community. And she said...
How did that make you feel, Mo?
She wanted to thank the queer community for inventing the genre. Now, I had a problem with that because I don't believe... I know who created the genre of house music / dance and everything like that. How did you feel about that? Or did you even think about that?
Man, I don't get that kind of stuff. No thought.
No thought?
But what I will say, house music, initially, a lot of the people who used to be in the clubs originally were the people who didn't quite fit in other places. They were different. They were like, and they would come to the house parties and express themselves, and they could be free. And so it's a little truth, but like a lot of the earlier producers of house music were very heterosexual, but a lot of the people who were part of the community and who that music was catered for were the, people who were artsy, different, Even myself, I was artsy, I like people wore, as I said, I used to wear military, what they call
I think that was the culture of it.
With a mohawk.
Right. That was the culture. I remember, and you had the Gumby and all the other stuff. Yeah. But I'm just saying the one who's created it are the Chicago kids from the South Side, West Side of Chicago. So that's what I was trying to, get recognized. So because we always get overlooked for that. But I want to know, what's your new approach with the 10 City reboot?
Well, the new approach is that I'm doing me this time around, and what I mean by that, it's the same way. Like I said, I think the first 10 City album was very successful. Nobody knew what it was, so they gave us and they let us do our thing. And so like when Patrick Moxie, who was at Ultra at the time, when Patrick approached me, Patrick said, I want two things from you for the last album that got nominated for the Grammy. I said, I didn't even know. Patrick told me, he said, let me tell this story first.
Okay.
I had talked to Marshall. I told you Sleazy D was the first person to kind of connect me and Marshall. Sleazy D died.
Okay.
And so Marshall and I was like, hey man, we're not getting no younger. We need to do another project together.
Yeah.
And so I called up every major label who does dance music you could think of. And they were all like, I don't know, 10 City. I was like, for real? So then I called up one label and they told me they were interested. And they said, yeah, we're going to do it. We just let us talk to the head guy at the label and then we'll let you know what the numbers are. And then they come back and they say, he wants you to do 4 demos first, and then we could determine how much the budget gonna be. And I'm like, man, I ain't never did no demo in my life, man. I ain't do no demo for Atlantic. I ain't did no demo for Nervous. I ain't about to do no demo for nobody right now.
So who was that label?
the label who said we had to do a demo.
Yeah.
I'll just say they said we got to talk to Simon.
Oh, so it defected. Wow.
So they said we got to talk to Simon,
and that was my next question. I'm like, why don't you go to the biggest label? Which
and they said
defected?
we gotta get the and once he hears 4 demos, and I'm not doing no demo.
Right.
I ain't never did, and I mean that I've never did no demo for nobody. Right. I was like, man,
your history speaks
and I'm
itself.
humble, but I'm like, hey, I'm Byron Stingily, player. Put some respect on my name. So I wasn't doing no demo.
So we know they passed on you.
So yeah, if you want to call it that, because I said if I'm gonna spend money to do 4 finished songs,
right,
I'll put it out myself.
Yeah.
And as soon as I went home and I said, man, I said, well, I guess I need to go and put my money up and go and do it myself.
Right.
It was the very same week I get a text from Patrick Moxie from Ultra Records, and he said, hey, I'm be in town. I want to have dinner with you. I said, cool. So I'm sitting there having dinner with Patrick. We laughing and joking. And I said, what you in town for? He said, I'm here to sign a group.
Right.
And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, if you want a song or something for him, let me know. I would, like to be involved. He started smiling. He said, hey, man, I came to Chicago. I want to sign you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sign me?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. He said, he said, it's time. He said, the world is ready for another 10 City project.
Nice.
And I said, okay. And he said, I got two stipulations with that, though.
Right.
I said, what is it, Patrick? He said, one, for the new album, he said, I want you to do That's the Way Love Is,
right,
and Devotion Over.
Okay.
And then he goes, I want you to do That's the Way Love Is and Devotion Over.
Right.
And he said, and after that, you can do whatever you want.
Nice.
And I really didn't want to do those 2 songs over because I did them already.
Yeah.
But he wanted his own version. And then I said, okay, what's the other thing? He said, the other thing is, he said, it's got to be you and Marshall. But me and Marshall had already talked about us doing it. So I'm sitting there, so I'm joking with him. Right. He don't know I'm joking. I was like, man, I don't mess with Marshall.
Right.
And he don't mess with me. And he was like, are you serious? You can't make it work? I was like, nah, man. I said, that's a deal breaker.
Right.
So he was just sitting there. I said, man, Marshall's like my brother, man. Of course we could do that. We could make that happen. And so I called Marshall, and Marshall was like, you ready to get started on this project? And I said, yeah. I said, but guess what? He goes, what? I said, we got a deal. He said, we got a deal? I said, yeah, we're going to do it with Ultra Music. Right. And so that's how it happened. So it goes back to what I said. He allowed us the freedom to do our thing. Right. And I mean, he A&R'd it. He was like, like, it was a couple songs we did, and he was like, I don't like this song. It's not going on the album. Yeah. And I didn't like the song neither, so I was like, so for me, I was like, oh.
So it was perfect.
I'm like, okay, And so he allows us, he believes in us. Like the first thing he told me, he said, you're one of my favorite songwriters ever. Yeah. And he said, I'm not just talking about house music. He said, lyrically and melodies, he said, you are like in my top 3 songwriters of all time. And I was like, wow. Nice. So he was like, and I want to bring.
I can agree that. I agree there too, man. I mean,
well, thank you.
Hey, brother, it's been something where I always wanted to do something with you guys, man. No matter what, I think it's all about timing. Before, back in the day, we tried to do something, but it just never came to. But I think this was the right timing, man. And I agree with him, man, because I always love your writing, man, and your melody. And I'm like, that's one cold brother right there.
Well, thank you, man.
So knowing that you was on Ultra, a label known for EDM, was there pressure to live away from that soulful and make a EDM influenced records and thing with them?
Not at all. We didn't even think about it. We were just so happy to be back and it was during the pandemic. Right. So I'm in Chicago cutting vocals. Marshall was sending me parts. I send him stuff. He adds to it. He send it back to me. I add to it. Then we have Immaculate add stuff to it. And then we had some guys in England called Who. Yeah. They were adding stuff. I got a chance to work with you, We did the song Better Man. I cut my parts. You sent me a part. You came in the studio breathing and coughing all on me. And,
we gave it to Josh.
Then we sent it to Josh.
Right.
He was in Jersey. And it was just fun. I got a chance to work,
That's good, man.
Work with all my brothers. I think the only person, he was doing his album for Defector. I think the only person that I'm like, Mike Dunn.
Yeah.
Didn't work with him, but we're gonna do some stuff together.
Good. So have you ever considered DJing like Robert Owens?
I get offered that
Really?
all the time to come and DJ, and some people tell me, "B, don't do it. It'll be a disrespect to the culture." But I know just as much, and I'm not trying to
Right.
I know just as much about old school records, what goes together,
Exactly.
how to program and line stuff up. And somebody just called me on 2 days ago and said, and I was like, "No, not interested." And they was like, "But we'll pay you like."
Oh, that made you turn your
And I was
cheek a little bit.
like, wait, what? Business class too?
Right. So
Y'all gonna have shrimp in the dressing room?
So if you
and red M&Ms?
So if you was a DJ, who do you think be closer to your style? Like, what style would you take from? Like, what DJ?
Oh man, I know my Chicago people gonna get mad at me.
Right.
But Larry Levan.
Okay.
I love the way that Larry Levan spent. And believe it or not, I love the way that Mike Dunn spins.
Yeah.
Farley,
yeah.
yourself as well, Maurice Joshua, but Farley is one of my favorite DJs.
Okay, good.
And I mean, Terry Hunter is another one of my favorite DJs.
Right. So,
but Larry Levan was
your type of style.
Yeah, I'm trying to be Larry Levan, man.
Okay, ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
And maybe Dave Morales, so I could take my shirt off. You know, he like take his shirt off, so I'm gonna get my abs and stuff together.
You can paint them on now, man. You can
paint them on.
Yeah,
maybe I get one of them suits, make it look like I got abs. Or something.
Not your own, but name me 3 of your top Chicago house songs.
Oh wow. Fingers Inc.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. No, that's good. Right.
Yeah. Fingers. Wow.
You got 2 more.
Nunu.
Okay. Liddell Townsend.
Liddell Townsend. Bad Boy. Him and Chubby. That was my guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
And I'm gonna go away from. I was gonna say something about Jungle One's Marshall, but I'll go with like some of the early, even though it's not vocal, some of the early Chippy stuff. Like
That
it's just the rawness,
part of the history too,
the rawness of that, man.
That's
It was just something else, man. You know.
Right. Okay, good. So tell us about the new album right now.
The new album just came out 2 days. Well, I don't know when this interview is going to air, but the new album just came out 2 days ago, and that was my phone buzzing.
Right.
It's up to almost about 230,000 streams just on Spotify, and that's not counting Apple Music. And it seems like it's being received well. It's getting some radio in Europe.
So tell us about production-wise. Who all produced on the album? Writers, everything.
Immaculate produced 5 songs on the album.
Nice.
Myself, and Shabazz Curtis co-produced with him, but he was in the driver's seat. Terry Hunter did a beautiful song called "Women of the Sun" that's on the album. Maurice Joshua did a song called "Family," which a lot of people have told me that's one of they. And I'm not saying it because you hear, but a lot of people tell me that's one of they. Like somebody listened to the album, and they got to song 8, and then they hit me back like, "Oh." I went back. I didn't realize it was 2 more joints on the album because the streaming, and they was like, "This Family's my favorite." And
I appreciate that, B. I appreciate that.
So basically, Immaculate, Marshall, you, Terry, and my buddies out of England,
nice.
And we got some great musicians. Like I got a buddy named Martin, who put the horns on the song "Women of the Sun," and if you listen,
that was hot, man.
It sounded like Earth, Wind, and Fire horns or something on it on that one.
I was gonna call Terry like, who did the horns on that, man?
And my buddy Martin.
Okay, now I can just talk to you then.
He's a bad boy.
No,
he's producing George Benson right now.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, he's a serious jazz dude, and we got like a lot of good musicians here in Chicago on this.
No, we do, man. And like I said, B, I really appreciate this, brother, because like I said, I want to give the flowers. I want people to know your history, because like I said, I think we often get overlooked, especially with house music. You know, people just skim over Chicago and forget some of the pioneers that created this groundwork for everybody that's being successful right now. Like I said, I am just honored to know you, man, to work with you, to have you on projects of my own. Like we did remixes, you did background vocals on Beyonce, Destiny Child, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston.
Yeah, and I always, a lot of people like no one can say anything about except my brothers. We had a studio together down 1648 Kinsey.
Yep.
And when we were down there, like I said, you just said it, you had me sing backgrounds on Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Destiny's Child, Beyonce.
Yes, sir.
And like we fed each other. I know It was like times when one time I had a mix and I was traveling somewhere and I said, "Here, Mo, I said, Mo, do the mix." And we kept each other fed.
Absolutely. And we've been doing it for such a long time.
And so nobody can say anything to me about you. You my brother, man.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, like I said, I love you for this, man. Hey, people, remember, hit the button, click subscribe, hit the notification button. It's everything house music and more. And Byron, once again, thank you very much. I love you, brother. And good luck on this album coming up and many more, brother.
Thank you, bro.
Peace out.
All right.